Hey, thanks for listening in to the Real Estate Center audio experience. As we always do, a quick recap on last week's episode, which was titled Inspector Gadget. We had Gary Hurd of GDHI Home Inspections, and we spoke a little bit about the role of a home inspector, what they look for, when to get an inspector involved in both the buying and selling process, and some of the common misconceptions of the industry. But today, I'm excited to welcome back my partner of now almost a decade, Simeon Popilius. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you for having me, Jas. Always a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Hey, I like that. Listen, so the reason I wanted to make sure that we sat down, I had to almost strap him in. Like I mentioned, we've been partners for a little over a decade now, and we don't really see a lot of each other because we're always running around and stuff. And it was interesting because last week and really the last 30 days, but let's focus in on the last week. We had a whole TV show going on. Tell the listeners, man, what was all that TV show stuff about?
Well, it should be actually, I think you had it right the first time. About a month ago is kind of when we were asked by the Everyday Investor, which is a television production house called Lakeview Media or
Lakeview Productions.
Lakeview Productions. I mean, they approached us to take a look at a sponsorship potential for the show. The Everyday Investor is a television show on CHCH. It airs on the weekends in the morning live, and then it repeats throughout the week.
And this show's been running for a while, right?
They've been going on, this is their 8th or 9th season.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have taken space on, not Rogers, the Real Estate
the Real Estate Channel and Rogers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's going to have quite a bit of exposure. And then, of course, interested us as decision makers as to where do we put our attention and focus, and where can we reach the biggest and highest amount of people that are looking for value in our space.
So I remember having lunch with the executive producer, Rav Tour, and I know what excited you really a lot about it, and obviously, being with you for so many years, that obviously kind of rubbed off on me, which was the format of the show.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the format. Man.
Yeah, so like the show's name, it's the Everyday Investor, and that's what's exciting. So the way he structured this show, and it's not the first season, it's not like he's trying it out. It's been a very successful show because it's very relatable to people. So when one turns on the television and he hops on, or somebody's looking through the television to find something, they see a guy just like themselves that has had a huge success story in real estate. And they go on the show, and Rav will interview the expert that they worked with.
So that was you and I, and then I know we flip back and forth on the episodes. So
well, I think the crazy part is the fact that we could be in for 5 original episodes.
Yeah, that was cool.
So it's kind of cool. I was very proud of being asked to cover that many topics.
But not to get all sentimental and stuff on the podcast, but I really thought that was cool.
Yes.
I saw not only kind of myself in a different light, but my best friend and my buddy and my business partner for 10 years, to see you, while I was watching you behind the scenes, it was kind of cool, man. You talk, I hear you talk about investments and stuff like that, but now you got the lights, the cameras, the actions, you got, the whole media crew there and all
crazy,
that, and
right?
it's kind of cool, right? Yeah.
Well, to me it was crazy the fact that we've reached that level in so many different components of real estate.
Well, we used to talk about that, right?
So,
years and years ago, we're going to do this, and it's just a matter of time. And
it was
so
really cool.
Talk about the episodes that you did.
We covered off multiplex, which is kind of the next level, the next kind of evolution. If you're into income properties, you don't have much more places to go other than getting into multiplex, which is commercial investing.
So when you say multiplex, are we talking
5
for our
doors
listeners?
plus.
Okay, 5 doors plus, score.
So any property that has 5 apartments or more, you're getting into commercial financing and commercial investing. So there's different ways to structure the deals. So we covered off multiplex on one.
Who did you bring in as the Everyday Investor?
That was David Bowen, and he runs one of the groups that we have that does a serious and significant amount of multiplex investing out in the Hamilton, Stony Creek, St. Catharines areas.
Tell our listeners why do you and why did David Bowen focus a lot on those areas?
Well, those areas are again, Hamilton it's not news. Hamilton for the last almost decade has seen the rub off of the appreciation in Toronto. So that market has been booming, but ever since they announced the GO train expansion all the way to Niagara, that obviously, so if you, one of the main foundation of real estate is location.
We've all heard that,
So,
yeah.
not to go back to cliches, but
But it's important.
the minute Barrie and Oshawa got connected with GO train service direct, and they've seen appreciation of well over 150% in the last decade. So transit has a huge and real impact to real estate values. If anybody follows Toronto real estate, for example, they'll know that the expansion to York University, what that has done to a revitalized entire North York region, going up to the York University, going all the way to Vaughan. Everybody knows what it's done to Vaughan's downtown.
Right.
They're building literally dozens of high-rise towers right in metropolitan Vaughan,
And exactly-
which is the site of the
Transit City and
subway expansion.
the subway expansion. And
So-
I mentioned Transit City because we did, how many units did we do that? I think we sold a couple of dozen to our investors, and they got in at a very good time. And,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna talk a lot more about that on other episodes.
Yeah,
What was
but-
the other episode you did?
But yeah, just to close off on the transit, again, he's focused in that neighborhood because of the GO train expansion. The GO train expansion is going to impact specifically Grimsby, St. Catharines, and Niagara with stations. And his group is all about apartment buildings in and around those stations, real estate in and around those stations, and kind of development opportunities around there as well.
So obviously one of the reasons that's why I don't see you, because I know you're driving around there and you're kind of on the street making sure that you do all the due diligence on those properties. The second episode that you did was buy and hold.
We did pre-construction,
You did the pre-construction.
and buy and hold we did together.
It's been such a busy week, man. Okay, so the pre-construction, who did you bring on for that?
Richard Lynn.
Richard Lynn, why him?
Why him? Because Richard Lynn is a very savvy investor in pre-construction. He's up to 14 condos
Crazy.
in the last 5 years. So he's heavily invested and heavily believes in Toronto real estate, obviously. If you ask Richard Lynn why he did it, he would show you his bank account because he's done extremely well.
Really nice guy, too.
All jokes aside,
Yeah.
you wouldn't actually be able to buy his bank account because he also doesn't sell real estate. He buys and holds. So he's extremely savvy investor again. He has partners, and they all together, they believe actually, again, another group that's 100% transit. They only buy along the transit line, so they're doing a lot of work obviously on Yonge. And any project that comes up around the corridor, the transit corridor, they're all over it.
Good segue. You said buy and hold. Now that's the one that we did together, but then you taped with the everyday investor, Sue.
Sue.
And why did you choose her? Because you made that call and to bring her on as the everyday investor.
Yeah, so Sue, as a matter of fact, after we shot that episode, she's also going to be featured on the YouTube channel. She's one of the, Sue and Mike are probably one of our biggest success stories. And again, you're asking a rhetorical question because you ultimately...
Obviously, yeah, but I want to make sure our listeners hear,
yes.
right? Yeah.
And where I'm going with this is Sue and Mike have been with us for 3 years, and in 3 years they're at 9 properties.
Unbelievable.
9 properties. So, and they're just following the very fundamentals of real estate.
And isn't it cool, Simos, to see that, you know, when they came to us originally, they were so scared. You know, Sue specifically, like just concerned and worried, right, to take that
I
step.
think the word is conservative. They were so
Yeah,
conservative.
I think that's the best word for it. You're right, man. And then what is it that you think that we do well, right, in terms of taking people from that step of being conservative and not taking action to actually taking action to buy that first property?
Well, I think it's really being transparent with how really easy it is. We never downplay the risks or the rewards. You tell people that you stand to make a significant amount of dollars. You tell people that you stand to risk your time, energy, and a significant amount of dollars if you don't do it right. But people, I think, respect transparency, integrity, and they don't want to be sugar coated into anything.
You know,
Like, people try to make people feel better by downplaying the truth.
Yeah.
I think the more you say the way it is to somebody, the more they the less they fear it.
Where did you, like, I hear you mention those words a lot, and obviously our business is built on words like integrity. Where did you learn that from, man?
That's family. That's family business.
And so that's like when you were growing up, and this is how your dad ran the business?
That's right. So I grew up in the restaurant business,
Uh-huh.
and again, like my dad's been playing with real estate his whole life. The only reason he ever ended up with anything is because of the right moves he made within real estate, even in the restaurant business, buying his buildings versus renting buildings, etc. But I mean, if you don't keep it honest, you have nothing. If you don't make your moves based on reality and you do it based on lies or sugarcoating things, you always end up in the same murky place. Nobody's going to trust you. Nobody's going to believe you, and you cannot build a business based on anything but the truth.
What's the Greek word for that? I've heard you say it. When they're always chasing something, like there's just people in business that sometimes... What's the word?
The fortune chasers.
The fortune chasers. What's the Greek word for it, though? Are we allowed to say it on air? Okay, so we come across that a lot, and so one of the reasons I know
It's a derogatory term.
is it okay. So that's why we're not going to say it on here.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But it's people who will do anything
Yeah.
for $1.
Right.
It's not who you want to be.
Yeah.
It's not who you want to be. Stand by your values. In our business, obviously, it's huge because we deal with people with hundreds of thousands of dollars every day, and it's people's kind of livelihoods. So it's more so than anything. But going back to that, you don't want to be a guy who will do anything for any specific deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our biggest advantage, because we're so blessed and we work hard, is we never need any one deal to survive. And we've always been able, even from the beginning, we worked hard and killed it.
Yeah.
So we've never had the issue of having to make a deal and having to do things that we wouldn't otherwise do. Never.
And I think it's neat because that's also gave us the opportunity to do things like this. Like this takes time. To put podcasts together. What you're heading up now, and you've been heading up for the last almost 30 days, which is the YouTube channel. What brought that about? Like, what made you, because you called me one day and said, Jas, we're doing this, I'm taking it on, I want to, start the YouTube channel and make sure we start educating people. Why do you think we're going to be a little different? Because there's a lot of people obviously doing it out there. Why do you think we're going to be a little different?
Well,
in your thoughts, man.
Well, what I discovered is, first of all, there's a lot less people than I thought there would be.
Okay.
That are doing it at a high level. I'm not talking about one-off videos I'm talking about people who are dedicated to...
So what do you mean by high level? So
high
bring me in.
level people who are putting together a production. Like they think about what they're going to present, and they actually present real good value. I researched it to death before we put this together.
Okay.
To know what gap is missing in the marketplace. Well, this is education, there's no marketplace, but like YouTube, you can get sucked into a rabbit hole in 2 seconds.
For sure, we all do.
You Google the best coffee in the world, and all of a sudden you're watching dairy cows in Africa somehow. so I find YouTube to be a funny place.
Okay.
But if done properly, YouTube is a tremendous resource. Obviously, it is because it's been relevant since its inception. And as long as you can put out good content, which is based on feedback, going back to how this all came to be, the feedback from our client base is, I live in Hamilton, I'm not coming to your office for a 7 o'clock workshop seminar at your office. Please don't make us drive to Toronto.
Right.
So that's kind of how we got into those audio clips that we were sending via email, keeping in touch, etc. But above and beyond that, we find by the time any one of our clients does a deal, we've spent anywhere between 6 and 8 hours with them.
Simeon's our numbers guy, so he knows this stuff. So go on, continue.
So whether we call that relationship building, coffee at Starbucks, meetings here, portfolio analysis to see where they're at and kind of judging their needs, from the beginning, from when we meet somebody to the time they actually transact, whether it's 20 meetings that were 20 minutes or a 6-hour date together, it's still 6 to 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how much time we need to spend with somebody who's never invested before for them to feel comfortable with our process, with their own feelings and emotions, what they're feeling. They need to be told to themselves, like, okay, I can do this, I can move forward. But the knowledge that we need to kind of transfer to them in order for them to say that to themselves takes time.
Yeah, for sure.
It takes time. and kind of what we're finding now with these videos that we're posting, because the podcast, I mean, again, like for me, as I see it develop, I couldn't be more proud. And I hope, we know for sure some people appreciate it because we're getting the feedback. I hope everybody does.
I think that's just going to take time, like anything.
But these are big episodes.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, how else would you hear a home inspector explain their business for an hour? Like, and that's huge value. You need a home inspector. You need somebody you trust. Whether it's this guy or depending on what market these people are in, doesn't matter.
At least you kind of find out what role they are in.
You know what questions to ask.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because we always used to say you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
Right, and so now you can kind of go in and ask the questions. So continue.
That's right. So the YouTube channel is kind of, we're gonna. So the whole philosophy behind it is to kind of centralize all roads. So the podcast obviously is not to be. You're not watching a still picture with audio. That's more for. You're working out, you're driving in the car, normal podcast stuff.
Yeah.
But every single episode will be on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
So if you are at home and you're, say, by your computer and you just want to check out different segments.
So you don't want to put my face on there? You're trying to tell me?
Face for radio.
Okay, face for radio. Okay, go on. I've heard that one a couple of times. Go on.
But every one of them is going to be there. There's a couple different series of videos. The biggest one that has started already is what we call the Real Estate Center University series, where we're taking it from step one and we're going to take it all the way through to the most savviest of techniques to invest in real estate. So far we've kind of, we've done an episode on why choose real estate as an asset class, how to build your team, and the third one that we just did was kind of the 5 most popular.
The top investment strategies.
Investment strategies.
I just saw that. So
Yeah.
that one you went into essentially kind of the episodes that we did on TV.
That's right.
You went a little bit more in depth.
Not
Right?
not even. I think that's what's coming next. I
Okay.
think I kind of give a good overview.
Okay, good.
So people can kind of see, like, what is this all about?
Right.
So now I'm going to dive into each topic. Specifically.
Awesome.
And it's all, there's no dialogue, there's no two people.
Right.
It's just myself going down, this is what it is.
Okay,
So this
perfect.
is what you have to be wary of, this is what you should be proud of when you're done, this is what kind of money you need to spend to get here, and this is kind of what you should be expecting as a return.
So you're going to give them essentially the straight goods as well as the positive stuff and the things that they should consider as well,
100%.
right? You're just going to lead them down the path that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and it's going down a path that has nothing to do with Toronto.
Okay.
So I'm actually extra careful and I try as hard as I can.
What made you do that?
Well, because now we're talking YouTube and we're talking people who are out of, our clients, so many are out of province. Why does somebody who wants to invest in Red Deer, Alberta need to know what's happening in Markham?
Is that just a shout out to where you're from, man? The
Well,
Red Deer, Alberta?
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, okay.
Red Deer, Alberta represent.
So something else that we've been doing for years, and not all of our listeners know, and you know the guys who are going to be watching us on YouTube might not know as well, is our events. And I wanted to talk a little bit about our last event because you know our mantra now obviously has been lead with education. You know, the YouTube channel, the podcast. You know, we're just finishing our book. Big shout out to our executive producer who also wears a lot of hats, Laura, who's just putting the finishing touches on our book. And so, you know, we do a lot of stuff and give away free resources to hope that people come to our event. And so the last one that we did was the HST rebate event. You know, I wish we actually documented, Simos, the day that you know, myself, yourself, and the rest of our team sat down and thought about how do we put an event together that is going to be all leading with education and at the same time offer the most hottest exclusive opportunity in the marketplace. So that was kind of neat that day. Do you remember? Can
I definitely
go back there?
for sure. And that was a big day because we had to strategize around two things. First, we knew that the project that we were launching was extremely hot, meaning like there was absolutely no doubt if we were going to sell the units or not. So basically there was for a total of 400 units.
Yes.
Over 2,000 worksheets.
Yep.
At the end.
Yep.
So this isn't a matter of like could the developer sell this and were we going to sell it to our clients? We had a guaranteed allocations. We were actually one of only 2 groups in the entire city.
Exactly.
To
That
have
was awesome.
To have a guaranteed allocation, again, thanks to Milbourne Real Estate and the whole team at Playground for that. But our clients have a unique advantage in most cases. In this case specifically, they had a huge advantage because we were able to take reservations to a guaranteed allocation of units.
What does that mean? Like, you know, obviously a lot of people in the industry understand that, but again, our listeners don't know what that means.
So
guaranteed allocation.
Sure. So when a developer has, let's say, the whole building is 400 units.
Yeah.
As a precursor to their entire sales process, they're going to release 100 units at the absolute lowest price first to friends and family. That friends and family event, let's call it, was on the Monday. That very same pricing that was offered to the friends and family of the developer, which is offered to the trades, like the electricians, the plumbers, everybody who was involved in the project, had an opportunity to buy first. Those very same incentives and prices were offered to our clients.
As platinum brokers.
As platinum brokers. But what's not common, even to platinum brokers, is to have that guaranteed allocation of suites. So typically you have to make a wish list. So like if I'm a client, I'm gonna write in a worksheet saying that I would like a 1-bedroom plus den on the 10th floor. If you can't give me that, I'll take a 2-bedroom on the 21st floor. If you can't give me that, my third choice will be this. And hopefully the developer can get back to you and get you kind of what you wanted or exactly what you wanted.
And so ours was different. And how was ours different?
They gave us an exact amount of suites with the floor plans, with where they're located in the building, and
This is what you're buying, and this is what we can offer you.
Of course.
It wasn't like the game didn't have to be played for our clients, which was nice.
That's right.
It was really nice to go through that. It was interesting because we had approximately 30 investors who put up their hand who wanted more information, and then after speaking with them, and you mentioned it just a minute ago, we sat down with all 30 and we did
34.
Was it 34 to be exact?
34.
Okay, again, you're the numbers guy. I know, buddy. I know sometimes I forget. So I'm glad that we had more than I actually said. We had 17 investors that went through and purchased the condos, and they made in the last week alone, not just to gloat or anything, but they made a little over $30,000 on each of these units because that's how much the price increased. But the other people who didn't go through, yourself and I and the rest of our team, we sat down and did a portfolio analysis and figured out that it wasn't a good investment. What is the portfolio analysis? Because you just mentioned it a minute ago.
So the portfolio analysis is our first kind of screening tool. We will not take any client on at any time unless they agree to do one. And that's something that we've implemented in the last 3 years of our business, maybe 4 years actually.
So you meet Joe Blow and he's gonna want to do a portfolio analysis. What are you gonna take him through?
If Joe Blow wants to sell his house, and that's kind of like a one transaction, just one thing, there is no requirement or any need for me to do a portfolio analysis. If he's just a guy who's moving away, needs to sell his house, there's no even talk about this. He just goes with one of our team members, does his business. If somebody wants to become a real estate center insider, is what we call it now, but if you're a real estate investor and you want to get involved with the way we do business, there is no choice but to do this. It's in the financial world, they call it a KYC, or Know Your Client. In this business, we invented it, so I don't know what they call it.
I love that we invented it.
Well,
we call it the portfolio analysis now.
It's the portfolio analysis.
Yeah.
And basically what it is, you're going to sit down with one of us, and it takes about a half hour to an hour, and we're going to go down just who you are. Like, what are you about? What are you trying to accomplish? What have you accomplished so far? Have you touched real estate before? What kind of time what do you think real estate investing is, first of all?
Yeah.
Because some people watch income property on HGTV and think they can become investors tomorrow.
And they can just start doing like student housing investments and do it on their
Well,
own,
it just doesn't work that way. A 1 hour show that took 4 months of work to shoot is 4 months worth of work for that result, not an hour or 22 minutes that it is on TV.
Right.
So it's very important for our clients to be, again, transparency is at the forefront. So we sit down with them, we kind of go over what they're looking to do, where they're trying to get. And I mean, you've done hundreds of these, I've done hundreds of these, and you're going to get real advice. And going back to the 34, but we ended up with 50% of them actually doing.
Yeah.
Just because you made money the last few years by buying a few condos downtown doesn't mean that qualifies you to do it again by us.
Right.
So if all you've ever done is buy pre-construction condos and you haven't closed on a couple and you make $100,000 a year, for example, sorry, I'm not selling you another one.
Because you might not be able to close on it.
You will not be able to.
And it just doesn't fit in your portfolio.
Well, no, people have like all these romantic ideas of how they can exit, only because the market has been so good for the last 10 years. If something were to take a downturn, if something were to happen, and I'm not saying that there is, because there's no indicator to show that, but if all your eggs are in one basket, I'm not putting another egg in that basket for you.
Perfect.
If that's what you want to do, you can go do it with somebody else. But I would take that client, I'm gonna say, you're not buying this, but what you will do, because you do have the money set aside for it, let's put you into an income property in a suburb. Let's get you into a different class that is not, the pre-construction condos, if you have 2 or 3 of them and they're all tied to the same period, if something were to happen, you're finished.
Well, you know,
All your hard work, gone.
how many times do we meet with people who say, you know, I want to manage a property or I want to do like a student housing investment that I'm going to manage it myself. We sit down with them.
And they're a shift worker.
And they're a shift worker.
They're a police
It's
officer.
Like, how are they going to do that? And it's just a matter of sitting down, I think. With
Yeah,
them, right?
well, because again, like TV and the media have a way of putting things to make them either too easy or too hard, and both are wrong.
If it leads, it leads, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you're a police officer or a nurse in a hospital in the OR, like my buddy Roel, he works at St. Mike's. He's a nurse in the OR.
Mm-hmm.
He gets called to work at 2 a.m.
Sure.
Well, you're not taking a tenant call.
Yeah. When
If
the
you're
toilet's
operating-
broken.
Yes. So it's just not going to happen.
What would you suggest for someone like him then?
Well, either you're going to use property management,
Okay.
and you're going to have to get into an asset that can still be profitable by using 100% third-party services,
Yeah.
or you're going to go into a passive investment that you can just put your money into a development. There's a million different things you can do.